Hello, creatives. Welcome to the Creative Architect Studio podcast. Today, let's dwell into the hot topic of a 7-star rated home in New South Wales, Australia. So let's go ahead.
Ever feel like there's some big change happening, something everyone's talking about, but you just don't have the time to dig into all the details?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I get that.
Well, that's what we're here for. Today, we're diving deep into a major shift in how homes are being built in New South Wales.
New South Wales, NSW, right?
Exactly. It's all about the new 7-star energy rating.
7 stars. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal for anyone in NSW thinking about building or buying new, especially since it became mandatory last October.
October 2023, yeah. Big changes then. Before that, the minimum was 5.5 stars under NatHERS, the nationwide house energy rating scheme.
Right, NatHERS. So now 7 stars is the baseline.
The new normal. And it's not just about NatHERS either. You've got BASIX too, the Building Sustainability Index, setting those wider sustainability targets.
BASIX, got it. So for our listeners in NSW, this 7-star rating is a key part of meeting those energy goals within BASIX.
It all ties together.
Okay, so 7 stars. Sounds impressive, right? I mean, more stars have got to be better. But what does that actually mean for the average person looking for a new home? What does a 7-star house really look and feel like?
That's the key question, right?
It is, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. What makes a 7-star home, why it matters for you, and what to consider if you're thinking about building one.
The practical stuff.
Absolutely. We're talking better energy efficiency, lower bills, and a more comfortable place to live.
All the things you want in a home.
So imagine this, a 7-star home. Basically, it's designed to be comfortable year-round without needing to crank up the heating or the AC.
Living in harmony with the climate.
Exactly. So it's not just about having fancy gadgets.
Not at all. It's more about smart design, using what we call passive design principles.
Okay, passive design. Tell me more about that.
So passive design is about thinking carefully about how your home is positioned on the land, what materials are used, and how air and sunlight naturally flow through the space.
So it's working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. And a big part of that is considering the specific climate in NSW. What works on the coast might not work so well inland where it's hotter or up in the elevated areas where it's cooler.
Right, so one size doesn't fit all?
Definitely not. You need a tailored approach.
Okay, let's get into the specifics. What are the actual design and construction elements that make a 7-star home? Let's start with the basics, where the house sits on the block.
Okay, so orientation is absolutely critical. In NSW, the ideal situation is to have your main living areas and most of your windows facing north.
North-facing, to catch that winter sun.
Exactly. It's free heating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use design features like eaves or pergolas to block out that harsh summer sun when it's higher in the sky.
Sort of like a natural shade.
Exactly. You know, even a small change in orientation can make a big difference in how much heat you gain passively. We've found that even a 15-degree shift away from true north can reduce that passive solar gain by a noticeable amount.
Interesting. So it's all about maximizing that winter warmth and minimizing the summer heat. What about the other sides of the house? Not every block is perfectly north-facing.
True, and that's why you want to minimize exposure to the west as much as possible.
West is where the hot afternoon sun hits, right?
Yeah, that western sun in summer can be brutal. So fewer windows on that side, smaller windows, that's the general idea. And thinking about how air flows through your home can make a huge difference too.
Like cross-ventilation.
Exactly. Positioning windows and doors so you get a nice cross breeze can really cut down on how much you need to use the air conditioner.
Working with those natural breezes. Okay, makes sense. Now let's talk building materials. I'm guessing your average brick and tile construction won't quite cut it for 7 stars.
You're right. Standard construction won't get you there. Insulation becomes a major factor in a 7-star home.
So more insulation than usual.
Much more. In the walls, ceilings, even under concrete slabs and in garages.
Places you wouldn't necessarily think about.
Right. It's all about those R values.
R values, the measure of how well a material resists heat flow.
That's it. Higher R value means better insulation.
So for a 7-star home, you need higher R values than in a standard build.
Yes. So a typical wall might have R2.0 insulation, but for a 7-star home, you're looking at R2.5 or even R2.7.
Significant increase.
It is. And in ceilings, it might jump from R4.0 to R6.0 or even R7.0, depending on the climate zone in the NSW.
It's like wrapping your house in a big thermal blanket.
Exactly. keeping the heat in during winter and out during summer.
Makes sense. What else is crucial for a 7-star home? I'm guessing windows are a big one.
Absolutely. Windows are a major focus. You often see double or even triple glazed windows in 7-star homes.
Multiple layers of glass.
Exactly. And they often have low E coatings as well.
Low E.
Low emissivity. It's a special coating that helps reflect heat away in summer and keep heat in during winter.
Clever stuff.
And it's not just the type of glass, it's also about placement and size. Larger north-facing windows to let in that winter sun, smaller ones on the east and west, often with external shading.
Like eaves and awnings.
Exactly. Eaves designed specifically for the latitude of your home in NSW are essential for blocking that summer sun while still letting in the winter sun.
It's all about angles.
It is. Pergolas and shutters can also help control how much sunlight enters your home.
So you've got the orientation, the insulation, the windows. What else? I've heard 7-star homes need to be super sealed up. Why is that?
Yes, airtight construction. Super important. It's about minimizing air leakage.
Keeping those drafts out.
Right, but it's more than that. If you have drafts, all that effort with insulation and high-performance windows goes to waste.
Because the conditioned air escapes?
Exactly. Sealing up gaps and penetrations where pipes and vents go through walls, it all helps keep the air you've paid to heat or cool inside where it belongs.
So it's all about creating a tight building envelope.
Precisely. Some builders even do blower door tests to measure how airtight the house is.
Wow, so they're really serious about it. Okay, moving on from the structure itself. What about the things you use inside the house, the appliances and systems?
They play a big role, especially when you consider the BASIX whole-of-home energy budget.
Whole of home, so it's looking at the big picture.
Yes. It's about the total energy consumption of your household, not just the building's thermal performance.
Oh, got it.
So you're looking at things like the hot water system, often heat pump or solar hot water in 7-star homes.
Energy efficient hot water.
Then LED lighting throughout, high efficiency heating and cooling systems if needed.
Okay, so all the usual suspects. What about solar panels? Are they a must-have for 7 stars?
They're often included, but they're more of a supplement now. The focus is really on building a super efficient house first.
So you can't just slap solar panels on a poorly insulated house and call it a day.
Right. It has to be efficient from the ground up.
Makes sense. Now, what about the materials themselves? Do they matter beyond just insulation properties?
They do. The color of your roof and walls, for example, can have a big impact, especially in the warmer parts of NSW.
Lighter colors to reflect heat.
Exactly. Lighter colors reflect more heat, keeping the house cooler in summer.
And darker colors in cooler areas to absorb heat.
You could do that, yes. Using thermal mass materials like concrete or brick can be beneficial in cooler regions. They absorb heat during the day and release it at night, helping to regulate the temperature.
Smart. Any other material considerations?
There's a growing trend towards sustainable, low-embodied energy materials.
Environmentally friendly options.
Right. Although that's more driven by a general push towards sustainability, not necessarily the NatHERS rating itself.
Got it. So we've talked about smart design, high-performance components, careful material choices. Now, for the big question, what are the real-world benefits of living in a 7-star home?
The benefits are substantial. The most obvious one is comfort. These homes are designed to stay at a comfortable temperature year-round. No more big swings from scorching hot summers to freezing cold winters.
Sounds idyllic.
And that comfort translates into lower energy bills.
Who doesn't love saving money?
Right. The NSW government estimates you could save up to $980 a year on energy bills for a house, around $265 for a unit, compared to less efficient homes.
Those are some serious savings.
It adds up over time. And beyond your wallet, there's the environmental impact too. 7-star homes can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 7 to 11% compared to less efficient homes.
So a win-win for both the homeowner and the environment.
Exactly.
Now, for anyone in NSW thinking about building or buying a 7-star home, what are the most important things to keep in mind?
Planning is key. My top advice would be to get a NatHERS assessor involved early on during the design phase.
Before you even start building.
Yes. They can model your design and help you find ways to improve efficiency before the plans are finalized.
So you can avoid costly changes later.
Exactly. Catch those issues early.
Great advice. What else?
You need to understand the climate zone where you're building.
Right. Different zones, different needs.
NSW has a variety of climates. What works in Sydney might not work in Dubbo or Armadale.
So you need to tailor your design to the local climate.
Precisely. Maybe focus on insulation and thermal mass in colder areas. Prioritize shading and ventilation in hotter ones.
Makes sense. Now, let's be realistic. Building to a higher standard usually means a higher upfront cost. How do you balance that with the long-term benefits?
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Some features, like high-performance glazing or extra insulation, will cost more up front.
But you save in the long run.
Exactly. But there are also cost-effective design choices you can make that have a big impact on efficiency.
Like what?
For example, being mindful of the number of downlights in your ceiling.
To minimize those holes in the insulation.
Exactly. And it's a relatively inexpensive change.
Smart.
Another option is adding internal doors to create separate zones. That way, you can heat or cool just the areas you're using.
Zone heating and cooling efficient.
Right. It's about having those conversations with your builder and designer, understanding the trade-offs.
So you don't necessarily need to go all out on expensive features.
Not at all. Often, the most cost-effective way to reach 7 stars is through smart, passive design.
Passive design, the recurring theme. What about the actual block of land you choose? Does that play a role in achieving 7 stars?
It's huge. Like we talked about earlier, orientation is so important.
Yeah.
A north-facing block gives you a natural advantage.
Free solar gain.
Right. If you have a less ideal orientation, like west-facing, you might need to invest more in shading.
To combat that afternoon sun.
Exactly. The slope of the land, any overshadowing from trees or other buildings, all these things can impact efficiency and might require more creative design solutions.
So choosing the right block is crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about the regulatory side of things? We mentioned BASIX earlier.
Right, so the 7-star NatHERS rating is just one part of BASIX.
BASIX covers more than just energy efficiency.
It does. It also sets targets for water efficiency and overall energy use.
Okay, so it's broader.
Yes, so you need to consider things like rainwater tanks and water-efficient appliances early on in the design process.
To meet all the requirements.
Exactly. It's all interconnected.
So it sounds like an integrated design approach is really the key to success. Any other practical tips for our listeners who are thinking about building a 7-star home?
Well, think about your own comfort and how you actually live in your home. For example, ceiling fans are a relatively inexpensive way to improve airflow and comfort, which can help reduce your reliance on AC.
Good point.
Be careful about those big, unshaded, west-facing windows.
They might look nice, but they can really heat up the house.
Exactly. And pay attention to the quality construction. Even the best design won't work if the insulation isn't installed properly or the windows aren't sealed well.
It all comes down to the details.
It does. Consider higher quality window frames too, like UPVC or thermally broken aluminum. They perform much better than standard aluminum frames.
So an upgrade there can make a big difference.
It can. And finally, think about future-proofing your home, even if it doesn't directly contribute to that initial 7-star rating. Things like solar-ready wiring or EV charging.
Smart moves for the future.
Right. It adds value and convenience, especially as NSW moves towards net zero emissions.
Excellent advice. Now, to help people really visualize what we're talking about, could you give us an example of a typical 7-star home in NSW?
Sure. Imagine a single-story home in western Sydney, north-facing to catch that winter sun.
Okay, classic Western Sydney.
It has deep eaves to shade from the summer sun, double-glazed windows with low-E coatings.
Checking all the boxes.
The walls have R2.7 insulation, the ceiling is R6.0, even the edges of the concrete slab are insulated.
Wow, no detail overlooked.
The roof is light-colored to reflect heat. The living areas are on the north side with ceiling fans for air circulation.
Keeping it cool.
The bedrooms are mostly on the west side with smaller, shaded windows.
Smart.
And of course, it has a solar hot water system and LED lighting throughout. This kind of home is designed to handle those hot western Sydney summers and cooler winters comfortably, all while keeping energy bills down.
That's a great example. So to wrap up our deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners about the 7-star rating in NSW?
The main thing to remember is that building a 7-star home isn't just about checking boxes. It's about taking a holistic and smart approach to design and construction.
It's a whole philosophy.
It is. It's about combining passive design principles, choosing high-quality materials, and planning carefully for the specific site and climate.
And for the homeowner, the benefits are clear. A comfortable home year-round, lower energy bills, and the peace of mind knowing you're doing your part for the environment.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
And on that note, here's a thought for you, our listeners. Even if you're not building a new home right now, how can you apply some of these principles to your current home?
That's a great question.
Maybe it's understanding how the sun affects your house, improving insulation, or upgrading your windows.
There are always things you can do to improve efficiency and comfort.
Food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into 7-star homes in NSW.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
See you then.